All right, and without further ado, we have with us a returning guest with a new job. Since the last time you were on, you are now the creative director of Magic the Gathering Online at Daybreak Games, none other than Ryan Spain. Ryan, welcome back.
Thank you. Hello. Good to be here. How you been?
Thriving. So let's talk a little bit about some of the changes that Daybreak is forecasting to implement, and even the one that we know is coming soonest, which is two-factor authorization.
hmm That was a thing that players have wanted for a long time, and we internally we've wanted a long time. This is a game in which you can trade game objects player to player. And when you have game objects that can be traded player to player, you really owe it to those players to give them some extra layer of security from having their accounts taken over. Uh, and it's all and look and because it happens, and it happens publicly. People complain about it on Twitter, and it doesn't matter if it's not our fault. Like, it's not, we didn't make your path. It's like, that doesn't matter. The point is, we're not providing the tools for a sense of security and a feeling like I have another layer here, and now we do, and it's great, and it's a good tool. And now when people go to customer service and they get helped with these types of issues, they can immediately be told, and now put on two factor, and it's just a good peace of mind. And it was also a nice place to start. We have, like I say, we did lose some engineers in the course of the transition, so we were running a little low on person hours, and we're growing in the team again, which is great. You can also check there's job listings. We've made hirings. We're building back up to full strength so that we can get all this stuff done. And but at the time, we needed to get creative, and we have kind of a sister studio that is Daybreak has a sister studio that had some available resources, dev resources, to basically apply towards Magic Online, and we felt this was a perfect first project for external developers who are not as familiar with the code base as our internal team, because this is not a magic feature,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a known, well understood, globally offered tech feature. And so it was a great place to start in onboarding new devs, and it was really one guy, and he crushed it.
Oh, cool.
Thanks, Kaylee. So you can all thank Kaylee for
Thanks, Kaylee.
killer work.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and so that's exciting too, to see talented engineers coming on board and help making this game better, like, immediately. So it's a very exciting time, and a great first step on that roadmap. The next one on my list in the article was improved metrics and tools. And this is super not exciting to you all. I'm sorry. It might be. If you're into tools and metrics, it may be. But for the average Magic player, you're like, but that's not the thing I want.
Right.
I wanted. And I just have to tell you, like, this is a game that needs some serious refactoring in certain areas, or we need to, it's emergency time. Like the another one of my analogies for working on any game as a service, but especially Magic Online, is the Grommet train. In Wallace and Grommet, The Wrong Trousers, Grommet is on the front of a toy train that has no tracks in front of it, but he's got a box of tracks. And he's sitting on the front of the train, throwing down track ahead of it. And that's the kind of mode you can get into on a game as a service, because the train never stops, and job number one is to make sure track is in front of the train.
Right.
And so it has been but the train is falling apart in some places.
Right.
And we need to fix it, and we are, and I'm so excited about, like, for me internally, I'm like, yes, we're gonna take care of some of these issues that make it so hard to make this game. So anyway, now that we are getting our engineering team up, we can focus on these issues and focus on infrastructure, making sure the train is solid, so that then we can add cars and do all this great stuff that we want to do to make this the experience that everybody wants. but we need to tighten the ship, and then and also understand, get some visibility. There's two layers of the data. Like when I talk about metrics, right? We lost a lot of metric visibility in the transition because that was part of the capillary hookup, right? So like we're still kind of reconnecting data and metrics on the Daybreak side, and they are essential to making sure that we are doing the right things moving forward. Getting visibility into things that have historically not been part of the data hooks of Magic Online are going to help us make sure we're doing the right things and measure them, and uh, watch player behavior and learn from it in ways that we just don't do right now.
That's awesome.
And so it's not as exciting maybe as a feature that would affect your gameplay directly, but I hope you're excited that that the ship is getting the nice overhaul that it needs to stay afloat for a long time.
Are there a couple of things that, like, from player experience perspective, is it also kind of like, well, you know, Magic Online is sort of infamous for crashing sometimes on certain people's systems. Like, is this the type of stuff that you're seeing if you can fix and how to fix and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, or
right?
Like exactly, or
Yeah.
I mean, a very simple example of the type of thing I'm talking about. This is getting a little in the weeds, but if you want to know how the sausage is made, it's
Yeah.
like there's a lot of new frames in Magic, right? So like it's almost like it's a selling point now. Every
Right.
new set has 5 new frame types that the game has never had before.
Right.
And each of those is a lot of work because of how the system currently works, right?
Right.
You set up a, you know, Magic Online builds cards, right?
Right.
And the frame is one of the elements of that build, and it happens to be one of the places where we are losing ground on like the size battle. You know, like
the size of the application,
right? Yeah. And so and people have noticed that too, that it's been getting bigger, and it's like, yeah, because of the way we do frames and because of the huge volume of frames that they're just kind of dumping now, like it's noticeable. And so a frame refactor, changing the way the frame system works so that it doesn't cause that drain on that particular resource, is just mission critical. Like it's not, it's gonna get worse and worse until we grind to a halt if we just pretend that it's not a problem, right? And so again, a little in the weeds, but that's the type of thing that when you have a 20-year-old game, you're living with systems that were designed, created, and coded decades ago,
right?
And when you're gromming on the front of the train and priority one is getting the next track down, you never get back there and refactor the frame system, you know?
Yeah.
But there's some things that are just coming to a head that must be dealt with. And like, that's one of them. And there's a couple other things in that vein that just need to be addressed.
And I think it's the type of thing the average player like wouldn't think to consider either. Because to me, a layman, like I would just assume like, oh, it's like a PNG or whatever. But clearly, it's so much more than that.
And you're a lot like me. I've said that you know, I've been a game designer and in games for decades now, and I've spent my entire career in a trust fall with my engineers. You know, I've given up pretending that I'm gonna be able to figure out ahead of time what's hard and what's easy when it comes to code. I'm not a coder. I don't know. And I'm constantly surprised to the point that I'm now never surprised. I'm just like, just tell me. I have no expectations. Please just let me know if this is an easy one or a hard one. It's like,
what else do you think is on the roadmap? Like, you know, are there other things that are kind of coming up for you all when you think about, okay, tactical things we're thinking about on Magic Online other than, you know, two-factor and kind of this infrastructure stuff we've talked about?
While the engineers need to be focused on under the hood stuff, Tony Mayer, the product manager, and myself have a mindset of like, what can we do that doesn't need engineers to execute? And really, it's so what we've been doing in parallel to these under the hood efforts is trying to think about. We're good at collations, for example, so we can get creative with cubes. I mean, I did a big cube update partly because it was, and I could. It's like we're very good at that. I don't need an engineer to change a lot of cards in a cube. But it's not about no dev, it's about low dev. So
Right.
like, here's something I can't give you a date yet, but I can tell you that I did submit the final detail. Like there were some final things we were hammering out. It's basically done, but hammering out and it needs QA and stuff. So we don't have a launch date yet, but we are almost done with Freeform Commander as a new format offering. So freeform is a format that Magic Online has had forever. It's basically low rules deck building. There's no four of, one of. You can have all lightning bolt deck if you wanted, and
Which
it's
I
got
do, by the way.
yeah.
Right.
That doesn't, like, literally 40 lightning bolts for whatever probably doesn't
Right.
do much for you, but
It does a lot for me personally, but
but
not
you
in a
could,
game
yeah,
like
that's
that.
true. Like
Yeah.
I don't know who it's whatever floats your boat, man. And so that's but freeform is a play, like, primarily it's just so one thing so people can play draft decks, right? You can take your draft deck in there and play
nice.
it
Yeah.
because it doesn't care about your sideboard size or your deck size, right? To an extent, but it doesn't have a command zone. So there's all of these cool paper formats that use the command zone in some form or another that conceivably could be played on Magic Online, but there's no rules enforcement for the deck building. So, and there's no free form with a command zone where I can agree with my friend that we're going to play with this rule set, right? So we're adding freeform commander so that you could try tiny leaders. You can even have it set so you can do Oathbreaker. The point is to create a sandbox where two people can agree on the subset of deck construction rules they're using. So that's an example of kind of low dev thing where we can really offer, with a little bit of work, but not too much, turn on a ton of formats that were not previously available to people. And again, in the space that nobody else can provide them. So we are really want to lean into those spaces where we're offering something unique to the community. And that's a good example of that too. We are also another place where you can make some tweaks without a lot of dev work, and that's the onboarding experience for new players. One of the overall things that we need to do for Magic Online is grow the player base, right? We need to attract new players and keep the players we have so that it grows. And so again, once again, even though if you've been playing for 20 years, maybe you're like, the last thing I need is a new player experience, but you do need it because you need new players.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so we want to make sure that when people give our game a try, that it's stickier.
I think this could be a great time to transition to a topic we've alluded to a couple times, which is the economy. Because the MTGO economy is unique from any other online game I've played. And I think that's something that players both have to learn how to manage. Sometimes they have to learn how to grapple with it. MTGO has the occasional all access passes. Is there, a potential future where all access becomes evergreen? How do you think about the economy as the creative director?
It's a team effort to assess the economy right now with myself and Tony and our EP Sarah and the team in general. But it is a complicated beast for sure. Your first question was, is all access something that could become evergreen or permanent? Sure, everything's on the table. Like we're considering all this type of stuff, but we're considering it so carefully because this is an economy that has spent 20 years settling into place and getting comfortable and familiar and understood. And when you talk about offering, not needing cards, not needing to collect to be able to play, it's appealing, obviously, when we were doing it, but it's an impact to the economy that has to be taken with extreme caution. And so, in a sense, the all access things we're doing now are informing those discussions, informing our understanding of its effect on the economy and what a world could look like in which there was always a way to be able to participate in a thing without necessarily having all the cards right now. that's very valuable to me. I mean, one thing I've said internally a lot, and I'll say here to you, is that there's really only four things I want players doing on Magic Online: building decks, drafting, playing, or socializing. If you're doing one of those four things, great. That's great. Anything else you're doing is a means to one of those other things, and I want it to be as painless as possible. And so that's my mentality about where to take the economy in terms of those types of factors. I've spent most of my career as a systems designer, and you design your systems and you unleash them on the players, and they engage with them. And when players engage with systems in ways you didn't expect, and they do it to accomplish things that they want accomplished that you weren't providing for them, that's kind of your roadmap. Your players are showing you, not just telling you, they're showing you what they want. And when other people step in and say, we can help people get what they want, and that's successful, that's a message as well. So again, I want players to have the deck they want ready to play ASAP. Mm-hmm. That's my fundamental bottom line. And I'm not going to do, and we're not going to do anything that makes that worse. We want to find ways to make that better, and we're not going to do anything rash to make that worse. It's not even on my goals article list because it is such an undertaking. But it's also part of the unique thing. I've been drumbeating our competitive advantages, and you could argue that peer-to-peer object trading is a competitive advantage. Mm-hmm. There's not other games that really have it. I don't think of it as much of one because of the how difficult it is to use in its current state. I think it could become one if it had less friction on the system. I would think of it as more of an advantage. As it is, I think of it as a problem to solve.
So the last piece I wanted to talk about, it actually just came to me while we were having this conversation, and you were talking about building free-form Commander. And it reminded me of the sign-off you did with Marshall on your last LR appearance, where you sort of just brainstormed / talked about the possibilities of MTGO in terms of creative expression of card collation and whatnot. So this is me pitching you an idea because I now have your ear. And it's inspired in part by things that I've heard within the Dive Down Discord, Magic communities, and that's surrounding one of, I think, many constructed Magic players' favorite topics, and that's the banned list. This is my pitch. MTGO should have a semi-official queue that plays with the banned list. People will frequently say in Modern that Twin should be unbanned. I feel like MTGO is uniquely positioned to kind of prove them right or wrong. And I wonder, maybe you can tell me now, like, what's that relationship like between Daybreak and Wizards, where do you have the freedom to do things like that, where you kind of like experiment with existing formats?
We can do whatever we want in that vein as long as we don't call it Modern, right? As long as we don't misrepresent what the format is, we have full flexibility to do that kind of thing, and we are thinking along those lines. I don't want to get too much into it because it's not baked enough to offer any kind of realistic detail at this point. But I'll say that we do have design documents and things in flight for systems that would offer that kind of custom, almost rotating format. You could imagine imagine a queue. You join, but then the rule, like week to week, the rules could change, and so maybe Twin is unbanned this week, but then next week it's something else changes about the format. We're just going to keep asking players if it's what they want, because I like the idea of because we've theory crafted. It could be really fun to try see if Twin is unbannable in Modern for a week, but you say that, but then if I offer that, are you going to go click that button?
Right.
Because some people say one thing and then do differently. That's why I say, like, that's why those data hooks are so important. Like, we really need to be understanding what you all are doing, because as wonderful as the Discord and the forums are as a way to communicate directly in plain English to me about what you're thinking and feeling, nothing can replace the hard truth of, we know where you clicked.
Right. Yeah. Nothing replaces
We've seen the heat maps.
Yeah. And so that's what dictates, that's the thing we're going to pay close attention to. And if you're worried about blasphemy or that's not authentic or they must be crazy, take a breath. We're probably asking you a question, and you can answer it by ignoring the thing. We'll hear it loud and clear when you do not engage with it.